trust this system 100%, I still have to go back there with the intention of getting a pitch correct. Because if the system fails, if it doesn't pick a pitch up, or if it registers a pitch, that's a foot and a half off the plate as a strike, I have to be prepared to correct that. And so, in terms of changing anything, I at this point, nothing will change for me. I'll go back there. I'll see every pitch the way I want to see it.
That is who I'm just going to call Brian D, because there's no way I'm going to say his last name without totally butchering it. He is an umpire in the Atlantic League, and we are talking about a newfangled piece of baseball technology tonight, Thursday edition of Overtime. This is Mark Schwab, and the Atlantic League is an independent minor league that is introducing a few new rules and one really big piece of technology. Jacob Bogage of the Washington Post joins me on the hotline today. Jacob, they're going to robo-ump might be too strong, but it's a computer calling balls and strikes now, huh?
That's right. Hey, if you could handle my name, you could have taken his. Brian DeBrouwer handled the duties behind the plate last night. He did a real nice job. But, yeah, it's not a robot. It's a human. He's wearing an earpiece. It's an Apple AirPod. It's connected to an iPhone in his back pocket. Wi-Fi signal connects that to a computer in the press box, which calls balls and strikes. So we're not quite robots. We still need humans to announce the calls, to handle plays at the plate, foul tips, things like that. But a computer is generating the strike zone.
This was at the Atlantic League All-Star Game in York, PA. So this is an exhibition of an unaffiliated minor league. This is fairly far removed from Major League Baseball, but that doesn't mean it won't arrive here. But they set this up. They basically have some scanners up in the ballpark that essentially hang at the highest levels of the park, right? And just kind of scan the strike zone.
Sort of. So think about the facade of a stadium right behind the home plate. So it's behind the netting on the actual building facade. It's like a big flat screen TV that scans the strike zone and looks down on the field. These are in every affiliated ballpark in the United States, from A-ball all the way up to the major leagues. Everybody's got them. They use it to calculate advanced metrics like spin rate, like exit velocity, things like that. And Major League Baseball uses them to grade umpires because they can program the strike zone. But in Major League Baseball and affiliated minor league baseball, we still have, of course, a human calling balls and strikes. In the independent Atlantic League, they've agreed to a 3-year deal with Major League Baseball so the commissioner's office can try out some new rules that they might want to implement down the road. The first of these that they started talking about right away was this electronic balls and strikes regime.
Sounds like the umpire last night, we heard him in the open, but generally also, they don't have a problem with this because they're not removed. They're not replaced. They are assisted. So they're cool with it, right?
Yeah, that's been the biggest gripe from, and gripe's a strong word, but concern from umpires as people have talked about a digital strike zone. They said, what are you going to do with the home plate umpire? You can't get rid of them. You can't eliminate jobs like that. The unions wouldn't allow it. Well, you're not eliminating a job with this. You're simply assisting the umpire by putting the piece in his ear, and he's still got to handle all the duties of administering the game and making calls in front of him.
He can override this, and we heard the ump there in the open say, if it's a foot out of the strike zone, I got to call it, and that's good. They need that. But at some point, one's going to ask, so I'll ask, whose strike zone is it? In the sense of if it's close, but he thinks it's a ball and they call it a strike, how does that work?
So 2 ways to answer your question. So the first part, he can override it. He's not supposed to override it. He can override it when there's a grievous, heinous mistake like the machine glitched or something. So, for example, if a pitcher spikes a fastball and it bounces into the strike zone, TrackMan is going to read that as a strike. The umpire obviously has to step in and say, no, that's not a strike. If the machine malfunctions for some reason and the ball is nowhere near the zone, flies over the catcher's head, it's in the other batter's box, it's nowhere near the zone, and TrackMan calls it a strike, that's a clear malfunction. He can overrule it. If we're a borderline pitch, if it's something even the umpire disagrees with, we're going to let TrackMan call that pitch. In terms of what strike zone we're looking at, almost a lot of players in this independent league, the Atlantic League, the majority of them have played affiliated baseball somewhere. If they've done that, that means they've played in a ballpark that has TrackMan. So TrackMan has data on them, and it's been able to calculate their individual strike zone, which goes from about a ball and a half above the belt buckle to the bottom of the knee, where they are in their batting stance. So every player has their own individual strike zone that can get programmed into TrackMan. If they don't have any data, they're going to hit against the average strike zone of the major leagues, which is for a 6'2" player standing athletically in the box.
So this could still hypothetically lead to a situation where, because it does call high strikes, and to me, the high strike needs to be called. It's like Bigfoot. You see, oh no, maybe it wasn't a high strike because it's never called. This will call the high strike. If the players or the opposing manager or the manager of these players that are getting called on this, they feel like they're straight up being hosed, can they then start badgering the umpire to overrule some of these? Maybe it's the high strike one night or whatever it is. Is this a possible scenario, or can this get kind of head off at the pass here?
No, the zone is the zone. Who are you going to argue with at this point? You're going to go yell at a computer? You're going to find some software engineer and go, how dare you? I mean,
they're going to yell at the guy to override it, though, won't they?
There was a situation last night where it wasn't the high strike, it was the low strike.
Okay.
And kind of a ball that really shaved a very thin edge on the bottom of the zone. The catcher had to pick it out of the dirt. TrackMan called that a strike. A player struck out on it. And he went to go talk to the umpire, and all the umpire did was point at the headset.
That's all you can do. So they're not going to badger the umpire. And even, I guess if they do, it's not going to do any good, right? Because
he talked to us afterwards, and we said, "What'd you say there?" He goes, "I went to open my mouth, he pointed at the headset, I walked away."
That's funny. So it reads it, sends it to an iPhone, I think, in his back pocket, and then he just makes the call. So, I mean, it's clean, right? If everything works right and if it glitches, he can take over calling balls and strikes. I do kind of like this idea because all of us are tired of the floating strike zone, and this will be consistent. Another thing, even if an umpire is consistent, sometimes he'll call the strike, let's say hypothetically, left-handed hitter in the box, low and away, slightly outside of the zone. He'll call it a strike all night. He will call it a strike consistently. But if it's a right-handed hitter and the pitch hits the exact same spot, he'll call it a ball. And he's doing this based on is the batter left-handed or right-handed. And that's what I don't like. Even if he's consistent, he's not. But TrackMan will call that a strike, whether it's a right-hander or a left-hander, right?
On top of that, it takes the gamesmanship out of a lot of pitching and catching, right? The catcher's glove can disguise a whole lot. And catchers in the major leagues right now are getting paid, hefty sums if they can frame pitches, if they can polish a pitch and make a pitch that's maybe 2 or 3 inches outside or inside and bring it back in the strike zone with that glove. The glove can't fool TrackMan. Same thing with a batter. You see a pitch that gets the inside of the zone and it looks like a batter's jumping out of the way. Well, you can't jump out of the way of what the computer's reading. It takes a lot of the gamesmanship out of what we consider balls and strikes.
All right, so you mentioned the 3-year window with MLB for some experimental rules, and so we've got a small list here. Things like the batter minimums to 3-batter minimum, larger bases. That sounds strange to me. I hate the defensive shifts, but I have got to start with stealing first base. Walk me through the insanity of stealing first base.
So think about the drop third strike rule. We're going to broaden that up to any pitch not caught in flight. Any pitch not caught in flight is considered a live ball. The batter with 2 feet out of the batter's box proceeding towards first base becomes a runner. He can be forced out at first base. I talked to major league officials about this, and the reason is we're seeing so many devastating breaking pitches, curveballs, sliders. Sliders become especially popular in recent years, that you can throw it they're elevating strikeout rates because they're such devastating pitches. They want to add a little bit of they want there to be a consequence for throwing a pitch that might get away. If you are going to throw that pitch to get ahead, or that wipeout slider, and your catcher can't handle it, you might be giving up a base.
I'm trying to decide if I like that or not. I hate the shift, but the only thing I'd hate more than that is banning it. I don't know. To me, it's dumb. If you don't want them to catch the ball, then hit it where they're not. But tell me about the larger bases. Why? I don't get. What's the point? I'm assuming home plate's the same size. Yes or no? Because that can impact strike zone. What's the deal with that?
So home plate's the same size. A regular base is 15 inches by 15 inches. Perfect square. These are 18 by 18. It's twofold, the reasons. One, a larger base gives you more room to slide into it. Hopefully will increase action on the bases. Two, they want to. It's a player safety issue at second base. They want to give middle infielders a little bit more room to maneuver when they try to double play. You mentioned a really interesting point when you talk about the shift, where you hate the shift, but you don't want to get rid of the shift. A lot of this conversation, and I was having this conversation today with a buddy about wanting to add more action into the game. There's a lot of rule changes that you can play with, and we're seeing that in the Atlantic League. But it's also got to be a broader conversation about what do we want to see on the field, right? Fans say they love velocity. They say they love the long ball. Well, they also like base hits and stolen bases. So what are we going to emphasize, right? The home run derby in Cleveland was tremendous, right? Vlad Guerrero Jr. putting on a show. Pete Alonso wins it in the final round. I mean, it was great. But what are we emphasizing about the game? Are we emphasizing the long ball and these blistering fastballs, or are we emphasizing guys that can control the bat, that can hit to all fields, that inject more action into the game?
Jacob Bogage, sports writer for the Washington Post, wrote a great article on this thing and walks you through everything going on at the Atlantic League. That's where they can find it. Jacob, thanks for coming by tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
You got it. And Bogage, much easier to say than the umpire's name. It's
yeah,
Bo,
I hear you.
like the Duke boys, and Gage like a shotgun. It's easy. Thanks, Jacob.
Thanks very much.
You got it. Washington Post is where you can find his stuff. The rules, I mean, look, if you don't like the shift, hit it where they're not. All right? And I am a staunch opponent of bunting, but that is sacrifice bunting. A guy from first to second. If they're first and second and you bunt from second to third, that's completely different to me because you do not need a hit to score a run. You bunt first to second, you still need a hit to get a run, and you just threw away one of your outs. But I don't mind bunting for a base hit at all. And if they shift over, I mean, you've got, like, usually the entire third base, shortstop area, just put it down. Right? I know some guys are easier to bunt than others. Some guys with a slider and it's dipping and you can't. Okay, but I mean, put it where they're not. Right? That's like saying in football you can't, have a zone blitz, or you can't shift your defensive line over. You can't do that. They don't have blockers there. Right? Yeah. It's kind of the idea. Go where they're not. Hit it where they're not. What a concept. All right, when we get back, we are going back to, to Progressive Field. Tribe not playing today, but they did have a workout. Shane Bieber talked with reporters. Terry Francona talked with reporters, as did Carlos Carrasco. We'll hear from all three. Overtime continues right here.
Shane, what have the last 48 hours been like?
Good. Comparatively, the few days before that were pretty wild. So finally to kind of have the game and the festivities over with and collecting my thoughts and taking a deep breath yesterday was really nice. But obviously things went pretty well, and definitely excited for everything and moving into the second half.
Has your phone stopped buzzing?
Yeah, a little bit. It slowed down a little bit.
What was Trevor's response?
He just came over and gave me a huge hug and said, "Congrats, man, proud of you." Pretty much the same as everybody else. The support from my teammates has been pretty awesome. They've, not just calls and texts, but in there seeing them for the first time, just congratulating me over and over. So I really appreciate that.
Did you change your mind about the truck?
We'll see. I think I got a couple weeks to decide, so probably going to go test drive and figure it out and kind of look at the specs on both of them.
We ran into your dad in the hallway after your press conference, and his quote to us was, it's hard to respond to them chanting "Let's go Bieber" when you're crying.
Mm-hmm.
When you heard that, read that, saw that his response was that emotional, what did that do to you?
Yeah, he's not too emotional of a guy, so that was a little bit surprising. And just seeing him on the field for the MVP presentation, and he had his hands above his head, and it was, he was in shock, and pretty much the rest of my family too. So, like I said, he's not too emotional of a guy all the time. So just to get that kind of reaction out of him, and got me a little emotional as well.
That's awesome. Biebs wins the MVP, and his dad all choked up. It's hard to chant or recognize the chanting is when you're too busy crying. That was really cool, and normally that would be the coolest moment out of the All-Star game, right? Kid throws well, and he threw really well. It was one inning, but he threw really well. Except the Carlos Carrasco moment, because that's when real life takes over baseball. Obviously, I don't need to tell you that was cool. I don't need to tell you that was powerful and emotional. It was awesome. I don't know what the odds are of that the one guy in baseball who is fighting that disease has the All-Star game in his home park and is there with multiple teammates. So it really becomes a Carrasco-centered moment. I mean, that's sports. Sometimes things just happen that way. The odds of that are staggering, but that's the way it played out. Terry Francona, they talk baseball, and we'll get into some of the baseball stuff probably tonight at 10 and 11, but tonight we're going to kind of keep it to Cookie in that. Francona was asked about it, then Carrasco talked. We'll start with the manager who had to shift gears from talking baseball to talk about a much more important moment.
Hey, Tito, we didn't get to talk to you after that moment with Cookie the other night was pretty special for everyone. It was kind of tough to keep it together there.
Yeah, you know what? Bart had mentioned something to me after the game. I purposely, and I know I'd said this before the game, that I wanted Alex and his staff to handle those duties because they had earned it. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful to anybody. I had seen Carlos, I think it was the third inning, I came up here to come up, and I ran to him in the hallway, and I already knew what we were going to do, and it was pretty emotional already. And then, that to me is a really powerful moment in the game when you see 50,000 people or whatever, and the commissioner and the people in the press box and the umpires, and then when they did that thing at the end for Cookie, holy smokes! When you talk about putting an exclamation point on it, it just was incredible.
I don't like it's delicate. So what is your guys' plan with him just on the field? Is he throwing the bullpen today?
He's been throwing bullpens. He's been going down to Lake County the last couple days, just because so much is going on here. But he's been throwing pens. There isn't a plan, and I don't mean that like we don't care, but the idea is for him to do as much as he can, or as much as he can tolerate, because it'll be good for him. Other than that, we're not pushing one, but we're just trying to be supportive.
It's amazing he's able to do that. You know, he's pitching just to do it and to do some things and be around. And obviously that's going to be a tremendous emotional boost to him and just to get some normalcy back in. Crazy part is he hasn't been ruled out for a 2019 return yet. Doesn't mean it will happen. Carlos Carrasco, this is what he had to say to reporters today.
Carlos, what was that moment the other night during the All-Star game? That just blow you away?
Yes, it was great. Even that I have my teammates in there. Tito was there too. Another guy from another team. It was a great moment for me. I really enjoyed that.
What has it been like to have the support of your teammates and Tito just throughout this entire process?
Even great. Even my wife, my kids, my family, teammates, Tito, office, staff, the fans, even great. They always, get me back. Let me explain. Like, they always support me anyway, on the field, off the field. Even great.
Carlos, does it make things a little bit easier that you're being allowed to pitch, that you can still have some normalcy while you're going through this, that you can throw the ball and be around your teammates, et cetera?
I've been throwing the ball normal, and I'm glad that I've been around with my teammates. Every time when I come in here to the stadium, I feel like home. My teammates, just every time when I get here, they hug me, they ask me how I feel, and it feels great to have that support from everyone.
Carlos, you made a point to go visit pediatric cancer patients. What was that? How did that impact you, and how has that affected you?
You know what, I think it's great just to go there and visit those kids, to have a different day. You don't want to spend a lot of time in the hospital, I'm pretty sure those kids they spend a lot of time there just to go there and have some fun and just think about some different stuff, just talk to them about baseball. I think that's great. It's something that I love to do, that I've been doing for the last maybe 4 or 5 years too. Not now, but I think the more important, just go there to have those smiles from those kids. It made me happy.
Carlos, do you think you'll be able to pitch again this season?
Man, I don't know. I just gonna take day by day. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I'm glad to be here around my teammates, just coming here and practice.
When you throw bullpen sessions, though, you feel the same? Your velocity, everything's the same?
I feel great. There's nothing different.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing, Eddie. Yeah, I feel great. I understand what else he's going to say. He's not going to get out there and say, I felt terrible on the mound. He's not going to say that. But it's just incredible that he's doing that. Great stuff with him going to see the kids. I mean, I can only imagine what that's like for one of those kids that is battling a horrible disease that I hopefully never have to deal with, and so many of us hopefully never have to deal with. But to see a major leaguer, and not like a major leaguer that just came to see him, but a major leaguer that comes in and says, "Yeah, I'm dealing with it too." That's got to be awesome for the kids and a great experience for them to have that kind of company. I hope he gets back this year. We're in July. It's not late, but it's not early anymore. You wonder if he does come back because it still is a starting pitcher. Who knows? Who knows? It's just amazing that he's got a shot too. And hopefully we still get to keep up with him every once in a while, see him how he's doing, whatever. The tribe updates is when they can, but it's not like a baseball injury where their trainers are working something in 6 to 8 weeks. It's a completely separate medical issue, so there's privacy and those kinds of things. So it's a little, you don't always get the same updates, but hopefully they can tell us things when it's beneficial for people to hear them. Under awkward transitions, file this breaking news from the NBA. Woj bomb. Houston has acquired Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul and first-round picks in 2024, 2026, and pick swaps in 2021 and 2025. So another big name on the move, another big name not going to New York, and I got to figure they'll probably turn around and trade Chris Paul, right? Why wouldn't they? Why not? Just get bad, get real bad. So that's a breaker. That was expected after they lost Paul George. They have now picked up, so that's 2 more first-round picks, like 7 first-round picks in the last week and a half. I'm sure that since it's the NBA, they'll all be middling prospects that they'll be lucky to hit on few, but, maybe they find the next Greek freak in the 15th pick of the draft. All right, lots covered tonight. Special thanks to Jacob Bogage of the Washington Post coming by, talking about new baseball technology and quirky rules that could be coming to the major leagues in 3 years. Right now they're in the Atlantic League. Check out his piece at WashingtonPost.com. This has been Overtime. This is Mark Schwab. I'll catch you on the tube tonight at 10 and 11.